Hello everybody, this is Ross Shrigley with Plant Select here at the CSU office building. My office is right inside and they've put some wonderful Plant Select plants out here, and I'm going to show you a little bit on maintaining the fern bush, the Chameabatiaria millifolia, and that is one of the best pollinator shrubs you can plant in your yard. There's so many bees and insects and earwigs that jump on it. Blooms about in late July into August. Big white flowers. Now this plant, it can grow like 5 feet tall, and this is one of the only plants I really recommend trimming back every year, because if you let it go on its own, what happens is these flowers, right here's the last year's flower, it dies back, and then this starts to regrow, and it pretty much terminates the end of this branch at this point. So what happens is you get these weird growths and it gets really leggy. But by shearing it back, you keep it at a dense, rounded shrub that looks really appealing and not so much maintained that it looks fake. It looks natural still. So now that we've put all of our maintenance schedules onto the website underneath each plant description, I can demonstrate what something like trim back means. So normally what you do with a lot of flowering shrubs or flowering plants is you deadhead them, which means you would actually come through with your hand trimmers and snip these off. And that would take quite a bit of time because there's a lot of flowers on here. Here's some more. You know, these are the ones that are later. But that's a lot of work. And to be honest with you, I use something like this. This is my actual perennial hedge trimmer that I use, and I dedicate one hedge trimmer for perennials because it goes to the ground, and if you hit something on the ground, it's not going to dull up my blades all the time. But this is a great size when the blade is only this long. I also have my hedge trimmer, and this is one of the best ones out there. I had to modify it so that I could actually hold it for a longer period of time. But this gets bulky when you're working on these shrubs. So I'm going to use this shorter one, and I'll just show you how I anticipate trimming these back, and we'll go from there. And another thing I wanted to point out these shrubs, when you're wandering around your neighborhoods, look at plants. They tell you what is going on in the light and in the soil and with water. And so when I look at these fern bush right here, all the way across, you can see how they're leaning way out. Now, they are on the east side of this building. They get half-day sun. That's plenty of sun for them. But they want full sun, and that's why they're reaching out into this area, and it kind of looks ugly. So these should actually be across the street. So right plant, right place. This is not quite the best place for it, and besides that, it gets irrigation. This plant does not need any irrigation after it's been established. But with irrigation, you actually make it grow longer. So you can reduce your maintenance by turning off the irrigation, and you won't have these long grown branches out. So what I'm going to do is show you what I anticipate on a yearly maintenance of this plant if it was in full sun and you did it every year. Now this plant, I don't think, it looks like it's been pruned once before back further, but I'm going to do it and redo it again. So let me put my headgear on, and then we will go and I'll show you quickly how this goes for trimming. All right. So that's about as much as I would take off. And if this shrub was in full sun, it wouldn't be leaning over the walk. It would be, I would just take off about that much, and look, there's not a lot there. If I were in a landscape, I'd consider just leaving that as mulch, and that will also reduce your maintenance. But because this plant's sort of in the wrong place, and I have to deal with it next to the sidewalk, and it wants to reach out, I'm gonna prune it back harder. And you can do that. So. Okay, so I've trimmed this way back. And the problem with hedge trimmers is they make a really bad wound on the plants. So a lot of times what I do is I will go back and hand prune bad cuts. So for example, this one, or this one, you can see right here, this was where the last time it was pruned, right there. And so all these branches came out. I took it back before that, so we're gonna see branching coming down from these areas down here. But because it was a bad cut, I'm gonna take this and just hand prune it to there. So the biggest thing about trimming and maintaining plants, I actually think, is the decision making. You want to be able to think quickly about, okay, this is how it goes. Take out the dead, take out the branches that cross, take care of your tools, don't dive them into the dirt. So for example, there's a branch over here that's actually kind of weird and long, but it was so low to the ground, I wasn't gonna use my hedge trimmers to get it. So I'll just hand trim it off. And that's how I shape up a tree or a shrub. And then when I get finished with it, it should look like it's ready to go. Now, some of you might say, or be asking, you know, is it okay to trim this early in the spring? And the answer is yes, because this plant will flower on new growth. And so that new growth is gonna come out and then it'll flower in late July. Like I said, wonderful plant. I try and hide all my cuts, which also means, you know, when you make a cut, you always end up something like looking like that. Well, when I go back and hand prune something quickly, I try and angle those what I call eyes to different areas. And if you have something like this where you have 3, that's just senseless. Take it back to 1. So, and there you go. That's a quick way of how we maintain shrubs, and hopefully the guide on the website for the annual commercial maintenance, you can see this is a low maintenance plant. Thank you.